empty shelves at retail stores, waiting 3 days for a break to fill, or driving across town to find out your hobby shop closed at 4 when you always have a card show in your pocket. With Loop, you can instantly buy cards, packs, boxes, or into auctions with the click of a button, and do it all while chatting with some of the best personalities and the best community in the hobby. Download the Loop app now on iOS or Android. Loop, a card show in your pocket.
Welcome to Fish Stripes Live. We are coming to you today with yet another series preview. As in about an hour, the Miami Marlins will be taking on a very good Seattle Mariners ball club. My name is Isaac Azoo. As always, we're joined by a great panel of guests. To my left is Eli Sussman, Alex Carver from Fish on the Farm, and Noah Berger. As always, we'll begin by recapping the Washington Nationals series that happened over Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Miami swept the series, albeit in not the prettiest of fashions. Saturday and Sunday's game could have been anyone's, and in my humble opinion, probably should have lost both of those games. So I'll start off with Eli. Your impressions on the Washington Nationals series?
Kind of echoing yours, I guess, that it wasn't pretty, but also this is the first time, I believe, in 11 years since 2011 that they swept a road series against the Nationals. So as minor as it seems, this is not something that has happened often to this team against division rivals, even against the Nationals team that I guess for a lot of that period has been pretty good, has been better than the Marlins. And this is a time where it's very clearly flipped the other way. First time in over a decade where the Marlins enter a year in a much more competitive situation than the Nationals. And especially at this time, like you could not find a team any colder than the Nats are, including this series. I think they had 8 straight losses at home. And like in all those games scored less than 3 runs. So this was as easy a competition as you could get, and they got just enough timely hitting, just enough from their bullpen, and exactly what they needed from their starting pitching. Those were the guys that really carried the whole thing through, from Sandy to Pablo to Trevor. They got it done. They got it done. They collected those wins. That's a reversal of last year. Last year, they dropped so many of those one-run games, and now their luck has flipped around.
Yeah, you mentioned the starting pitching. They are very fortunate that Pablo and Trevor did what they usually do and kept their team in the ballgame because they couldn't hit, they couldn't field on Saturday and Sunday. So, like I said, very fortunate that Pablo and Trevor both did their jobs.
Wednesday and Thursday.
I'm sorry. Wednesday and Thursday. Long day. Noah, go ahead. What are your thoughts? Did they deserve the series sweep?
I think they needed it. I don't think they deserved it, but they needed it. The bullpen held up. Shockingly, the bullpen held up.
Noah, did you see my Anthony Bass stats?
I did, like literally right when I got home, I saw it.
He's been great.
He surprised even me, and I'm like his biggest supporter. Like the fact that he's doing well is shocking even to me.
Yeah.
So it's a good sign if he can keep this up.
Yeah, and Alex, your impressions on the week-long series from Tuesday to Thursday?
Yeah, no, we said it last time we were on the show, right? That's exactly what they needed. I think I said it, that they needed to get this sweep to show that they're really ready to compete. If you're a competitor, you beat the worst teams in the league. And like Eli said, maybe not as, authoritarian as we would have liked, or authoritative, I should say, as we would have liked. They didn't score a lot of runs. Offense against that pitching, I thought should have done a lot more, but they won the series. The pitching was really, really good. Starting pitching, especially, they got 3 quality starts, as he said as well. And then for Trevor, I said that as well last time, that he needed to come out and have a good start to rebound, right, with how he started out. So yeah, they got exactly what they needed all the way through, except for maybe the offense. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more, but sweep is good, and now you come home to face a pretty good team, which we're going to talk about. So. Good to see, but would have liked a little more offensively.
Yeah, I'm with you. And, we mentioned the Anthony Bass stats. I'll just go over them very quickly. Anthony Bass, since taking the loss on opening day, has allowed only 4 base runners and 9 in the 3rd inning. He's also inherited 5 base runners and stranded all of them. So, as the great Fish Stripes said, phenomenal stretch for Anthony Bass. Welcoming John Rodriguez from all Marlins. John, how's it going, man? Just quick, was your brief thoughts on the Washington Nationals series?
Oh man, it was literally what the team needed. I predicted the sweep, and they delivered. Some were going for 2 of 3, but hey man, the pitching was phenomenal. Trevor Rogers, I rooted hard for to bounce back. He sure did. Allowed 2 hits, I think it was. Someone catch me up on that. Um, but Trevor Rogers, man, phenomenal job. Game 3, you know, he was literally the guy that was kind of rooting for the most as far as all the pitchers, because he's kind of had a bit of a bouncy start, but hey, good stuff from the fish, man. Good stuff. This is literally what we needed.
Yeah, and before we go into the late inning bullpen options that Miami has, and they sort of faltered a bit in Blyer and Bender, although unscathed, but they didn't look the best. Blyer's case, not unscathed. Trevor Rogers, what's up with the first inning issues? I think he did have some of those last season, but so far this year, every single game that he has started, he's struggled in the first inning. He must be averaging 30, 35 pitches in the first inning. I know he had a 40-pitch first inning against Philadelphia. What can we attribute that to? Anyone that wants to go ahead and take that one?
So, I've always thought of these kinds of things, like with Bender giving up like a home run on the first batter he faces in the 9th inning,
Yeah,
and with Rogers having trouble in the first inning. Why not have him like pitch an inning more of pitches in the bullpen before he comes out? Why not have a batter in the bullpen? Imagine that he's taking a swing off of Bender.
Yeah.
Something. How? What's the difference between the first inning and the next inning? Is it the batters that are up? He's having trouble facing those first 3 hitters?
Well, that is the theory behind the opener in general, is the idea that at the top of the lineup, you usually face the best hitters. And if you have somebody that is stretched out to pitch deep into the game, but you want them to kind of put them in a lane where they face the top of the lineup less, that's why you had the opener in the first place. It's just with Rogers, you look at the history. Last year, this was really not a theme for him whatsoever. He was kind of normal in this regard. So that's why, even based on, you're right, we have seen it now in pretty much all of his outings in this small sample. I'm not really worried about it yet. It's been a little bit different in each situation.
Daniel Rodriguez at the ballpark representing Fish Stripes, covering tonight's ball game against the Seattle Mariners, the series opening game. Daniel, anything special happening?
Well, right now we have some Julio Rodriguez, some batting practice from him. He is gigantic. I see why he was the #1 overall prospect. Dude is gigantic. A lot of great things here. A lot of people here today. A lot of Mariners fans. A lot of media here today. You can see there's Julio right there. But it looks like it's going to be a great game between the Mariners and the Marlins. Both teams look focused, and it's 2 teams in the top 2 of their own respective division. And it's going to be a fun one. This is going to be a fun one to look at. You're going to see a lot of young pitchers, young players from the Mariners like Julio. And you also have their top acquisitions, Jesse Wickner, Eugenio Suarez. It's going to be a great series, and you can see right there, their 2 young best prospects right there, Julio and Jared right there. You can see talking to each other. It's going to be a fun one. It's going to be a good game today.
Yeah, and that's something we'll definitely talk about later in the show, about those 2 stud young outfielders, Jared Kellnick, acquired from the Mets, and a very interesting trade, and Julio Rodriguez, who I believe was homegrown, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep,
just 2 great, immense offensive potential prospects that the Mariners have that will be roaming their outfield for a long time. Going into the bullpen, Anthony Bender, I know he did the job both nights, but boy, Yadiel Hernandez got him. He made the mistakes, and he made a bunch of mistakes to Lucius Fox. He made a bunch of mistakes to Michael Franco. He was very fortunate that Miami won that ball game, because he was leaving his curveball, his signature great off-speed pitch, right in the zone where you don't want him to be hit. So should Miami be worried about the 9th inning situation?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
It's not a good situation. They didn't do the particular thing that we wanted them to do to shore that up. This has been a theme, almost every stream talking about it. It's always somebody different. They try in that role based on certain matchups. And so they're doing the best that they can with the arms that they have. Well, the major league arms that they have at the moment. There's no easy solution to this right now. The biggest solution is building bigger leads. So when you have a lead that's multiple runs, then you have that cushion, as that proved to be the difference in a couple games on this road trip, both the Braves series and the Nats series, having multi-run leads heading into the 9th inning. So even when you get kind of cold feet, or you have a guy that isn't all that perfect. You have some margin for error. So it's not brain science. They just don't have great relievers right now. And the solution to that is have the other position groups pick up the slack.
Yeah. And of those guys, go ahead, Alex.
Yeah. It was good to see from Cole Sulser. It was good to see him finally get that opportunity and get out there and do what he did, because I think he could be okay. But like Eli said, they have no clear-cut guy. They really don't. Dylan Floro, when he comes back, will step in. Is he the clear-cut shutdown closer? No. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's a concern. And what else can you do except for hope the offense gives you more room? And right now, that's a problem too. So, you see them only score, 1-run games against the Nationals. So what are better pitching staffs going to do, right? What are better teams going to do? They're going to take advantage of that. So longer term, it's an issue. They still need to address that. They need to sign somebody if they're serious about competing. That's it.
Same thing that they did in the Braves series, where they had Tanner Scott finish a game, and then everybody's like, oh man, I like what Tanner Scott did. Then Tanner Scott comes in the next game and it's a heart attack. The Marlins just can't afford to finish these games in those very heart attack like ways. We got pretty lucky out of those three. The Nats won. Man, it's good that we won at the end of the day, but it's concerning. 100%.
Well, I don't want to remind you guys of rougher times, and this is probably an answer you guys are all going to say hell no to, and I don't blame you. I would say no too. But let's say Floro comes back, or even before Floro comes back, because I think he should be back soon. I think he's going to be pitching in AAA, which would signify that he's pretty much almost ready to come back, right? But let's say they get a 9th inning situation tonight, or in this series in a close game, less than three runs or less, and
you can't get Floro here tonight.
You're looking at who do you go to? You guys mentioned Anthony Bass. We all know his problems in the 9th inning.
No.
Is that an option? Do you guys think it's an option, or is it hell no?
If he's facing all
if it's an option, that's a problem.
If he's facing all right-handed batters, maybe I need to actually double check. We'll get into this lineup a little bit later as whether that's a scenario that's even going to happen tonight. That's a key difference. Last year, the platoon splits, people obsess over the innings, blah, 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 blah. I know Noah is very passionate about this. Pitch him at the 7th. You
can't pitch him in the 9th. He sucks in the 9th.
Yeah, but if you want to look at the more relevant splits, in my opinion, they're the ones when he's facing righties and facing lefties.
Right.
Just because that splitter, he's using it kind of sporadically this year, which is better than nothing, but it's still, there's a huge difference in terms of the effectiveness that he has based on that. They're in a spot right now where there is no clear-cut closer. I imagine that really that the best thing to do, and I'm surprised that Mattingly has done it to some extent, going with the committee, going with certain matchups. That's something historically he does not like to do. He will stick with some guy even if they are underachieving, but we've seen now several times where they went with somebody else aside from Bender, and I admire that flexibility that he's going with. Again, it's just not a good situation, but they are finding a way to navigate it more often than not.
Yeah, and something I can see them doing, which would be kind of funny, was that trade that brought in Tanner Scott and Cole Sulser. I could easily see him using, by committee, those two guys. It's a lefty heavy, bottom of the 9th, top of the 9th, whatever it is. Go with Scott, and righty, you go with Sulser, because Sulser looked phenomenal all Washington series. Scott has had his ups and downs, but he has the stuff, as Alex mentioned, to be the closer. And the other lefty I want to mention has not been able to get it together is Richard Blyer. Has a history of struggling in April, but this one seems a little bit more. Maybe we're playing recency bias. I don't know what you guys think about Richard Blyer and his ineffectiveness to begin the year.
He's 35.
And they just extended him, so they better hope he's good.
Yeah, I was watching this show, Marlins Jeopardy, last week, and I was reminded he's the oldest player on this Marlins roster.
That was a great show. Who won?
I'll have to tune into that next time. Let me know when you're doing it again.
Yeah, great logo. Amazing logo. I don't know the designer who made that, but...
Throw me out there.
So
the host is kind of weird, though. I don't like that guy.
Yeah. When it comes to Blyer, the issue early on last year, was he was allowing uncharacteristically long fly balls. The one thing you can count on from him is keeping the launch angle down based on the pitches that he has and the location that he puts them in. And this year, to this point, it hasn't been as worrisome as it was at this time last year throughout a lot of spring training in April. It seems like something that I'm not panicking yet It is frustrating though, that it has extended a little bit deeper into the regular season than it did last year. And at a time where, as you mentioned, you don't know exactly what you're getting with Tanner Scott. He's either awesome or really not awesome. And then who else are we looking at when it comes to lefties on this team in this bullpen?
Oker.
Yeah, Oker is really the top lefty in the bullpen right now. I don't think there's much doubt about that. As we
His
saw,
name is spelled with multiple K's, some of them backwards.
Yeah. So that's
Nice.
I at this time last year, remember, Okert was not even in the majors. He was in AAA. In fact, the AAA season hadn't even started at this time last year. So he was just totally out of sight, out of mind. I think he's definitely supplanted or surpassed Blyer on the depth chart. I would hope. We haven't seen Mattingly use him that way, but I think that's got to change really soon based on what these guys have done this season so far.
Yeah, we're only talking about 4 innings for Blyer, right? I mean, yeah, spring training we all know wasn't good, and it's permeated here regular season, right? The biggest thing for me with him is he's got to be able to keep the ball down, and if he's not keeping the ball down, he's not getting ground balls. He's going to get hit because he doesn't have velocity and he doesn't have stuff. So if he's commanding though and placing the ball in the corners, that's when he's getting ground balls. But he hasn't done that at all in 2022, spring included. So he's, as Eli said, notoriously a slow starter. So I hope that's really the only issue and he can figure it out. But yeah, if he's missing spots, you're going to see home runs. He's going to get hit. So hope he figures it out. I think judging by his pass, he probably can, but we'll see. It's only 4 innings so far. So I'm with Eli. I'm not like up in arms just yet.
Don't give me money. I'll spend it.
And they did give him money. In fact,
well, on the ground ball thing, Perry Hill's in town. Can we have him do one drill with our fielders? Just once, please, so that the ground balls aren't ending up in errors.
Yeah. For people that didn't notice that, Perry Hill is now in his 4th season with the Mariners ever since the Marlins let him go as their infield instructor, and he kind of turned J.P. Crawford into a Gold Glover. He's doing good work over there. He's very happy over there.
He did stick around with Miami that first year of the Jeter.
Right.
And then that was strange. I was surprised when he did leave. Something that Sean, our good friend of the show, Sean, brought up is that, rosters do have to go back down by a couple of spots in a couple of days. Eli put out an article explaining who he thought would be going down. I don't want to spoil it for those who haven't read it.
My facial expression spoils it.
Yeah. So if Alex, you want to go ahead first.
Well, it's going to be one of the arms, the lengthier arms, maybe an Armstrong DFA. I could definitely see that happening. He just hasn't really pitched much, and when he has, he really hasn't been good. And then the other one, honestly, I mean, you're looking. I think they want to keep it at 9 relievers from 10. I think they still want that kind of length out of the bullpen. So I know this is unpopular. I don't know what Eli wrote. I have not read your article yet, Eli, but I will do so. But I said this to you guys the other day. We were talking about it in our chat. I think it has to be De La Cruz. That's really my only guess. Another guy that hasn't really played a lot. When he has, he's been good. But they've already sent him down once when they thought Roman Quinn was going to be here. So they're willing to do it if they have to. So it's unpopular, and I think Noah will be very upset. But I think that's your guy.
I'm already upset at the thought.
Right. So here's the key with De La Cruz is if he goes down, and I'm on the same wavelength with you in terms of there being probably 14 pitchers and 12 position players. And so if De La Cruz goes down, then who's the backup center fielder? And the pretty obvious option is John Birdie, because he's played center field quite a bit in the majors. But what I noticed is that decreasingly he's been playing center fielder. He played quite a bit in 2019 when they did not have a center fielder. He played only a few games in 2020. I think last year, I don't know if he started any games in center field. But if I remember correctly, in spring training, he did have at least 1 rep out there. So all that being said, I think they still like him as that emergency center fielder type. And just to clarify how we got here, it's because Jesus Sanchez is an everyday player, and Avisail Garcia, like it or not, is an everyday player, and Jorge Soler, like it or not, is an everyday player. So you don't need a whole lot of outfield depth behind them on the active roster at any one time until one of them gets hurt, which is kind of a strong possibility at some point this year. People shouldn't panic about De La Cruz going down, because there will be opportunities the way that it goes. Even not them, even if one of Cooper or Aguilar that get hurt as well, Like there's so many ways to open up extra plate appearances for somebody like DLC, who by all accounts is a really decent hitter. As long as they feel comfortable with Birdie as that backup center fielder, I agree that's where it goes. But I do have a difference of opinion with the bullpen, just because as we look at some of the key factors here, the minor league options that these different players still have remaining. Armstrong, if they get rid of him now, he's gone. They can't withhold him. And I think one thing that gets overlooked about Armstrong is he's on a guaranteed deal. He's earning $1 million this year, and it's totally guaranteed. If they cut him now, they are eating $900,000. All that's just gone. Has he really been that offensively dreadful, like that, like despicable to this point in the season that justifies them cutting bait right now? And in my opinion, definitely not. It's just been too small of a sample, and he hasn't really changed the course of any individual game, even though he's been bad overall. I think that is going to be kicked down the road quite a bit before they go in that direction, which means a couple other ways they could go. And to me, the most likely one is simply sending down Zach Pop, because he was in the minors at this point in the year. He was doing great in AAA. He's going to be up at various points during this season, I'm sure, again, and be a real factor in this. But that's the easy solution, is having him sent down, just because he is not stretched out to give you much length, and because they had him in AAA up until just a few days ago. He'd be the one, to me, that is trimmed from the pitching side of it.
Yeah, I tend to agree with most of what you say. My 2 cents really quick. De La Cruz, I do know Mattingly does like to take Soler out of left field late in ball games when they have the lead. So I don't know. I think Birdie's arm is a complete liability out there late in games. I wouldn't put him in the outfield at all. He's a very good infielder. Keep him there. But yeah, I that's the one thing that would keep me from, guaranteeing that DLC is the one that goes down, because then you have no defensive outfield replacement unless you want to use Brian Anderson. And if he's starting, where you're going to put Wendell doesn't play the outfield either. So that's the one thing that would make me think that they keep DLC, but it looks like it would be him. And regarding Armstrong, man, you say he hasn't been bad enough. He's already produced a negative 0.3 wins above replacement. He has an ERA over 7. He's walked 3, struck out 5, and 6.1 innings pitched. He's never been good. Eat the $900,000. Don't keep a guy on your roster pitching valuable innings just because you gave him a very
you
small.
got that $900,000.
The Marlins do. Bruce Sherman does.
I think you can swallow it and just move on. That was just a bad one. If he had like a history of being good in the major leagues, and sure, but he just hasn't shown that ever.
They were what they were hoping for, Isaac, and the guaranteed money. I knew that actually, but even still, I agree with you. I think you can't keep around players that are negatively, affecting your team. And I know it's a small sample, but he wasn't good in spring training. He's not good now. They were hoping for an Anthony Bender situation, and it didn't happen. So, I agree. I think it's just you got to. And we've talked about this many times on the show. When are they ready to cut dead weight? Right. They have not been in the past. I think they need to be that team now if they're serious about winning. Every game matters. And we saw that. Yeah. We were talking about a must sweep series against the Nationals. We're talking now about they got it. I think, definitely taking at least 2 would be huge in this series against the Mariners, especially on this long run. That would really boost the club, right? So talking about winning games and winning now and winning for the long haul, you got to keep guys around that are going to positively affect your team. I think Pop does that more than Sean Armstrong.
Yeah, and
Pop, as you said, Eli was very good in minors. He's been good. So I say you keep him and get rid of the dead weight. That's my opinion.
You mentioned his spring training. On the outskirts, it looked like he had a great one. He had a 2.08 ERA, but you look at the peripherals and, 12 and a half hits per 9, 6 strikeouts per 9. He just was not very good. So I think he is going to be on a short leash, like Eli mentioned on Twitter, I think it was. But, I don't know, John or Noah have anything to add to that situation on who gets cut in a couple of days.
No, yeah, I mostly. Oh, you want to go first, Noah?
Yeah, you go ahead.
Oh, okay. I mostly agree with what Eli said for the most part. I was thinking about the impact of De La Cruz going down, and I'm thinking to myself, yeah, sure, we don't like the guy in center field, but slide Avi over to center in some games that you might have to do that.
Are you insane?
You wouldn't do it? I mean, I don't know. It's just
he looks lazy as heck in right field. You want that guy in center?
Would you put Birdie at center?
No,
I'd put anybody at center over Avi
Sanchez, and that's it. And Sanchez is the one guy who, no matter what you keep, his defense has been good enough where you keep him in there all game long. So
he's got a cannon.
And he's got a cannon. And so does Avi. So Soler is the one, weak link, quote unquote, of the defensive outfield, where they like to put in Brian De La Cruz, and they've done that a lot. I think they've done it 5 or 6 times this year so far, where they put him in late in the ball game. And if you lose him, you are going to stick with Soler, playing all 9 innings and left.
There's one other thing. Go ahead, John.
Oh, I was just gonna say Brian Anderson might see a bit of more time in the outfield for games.
He's starting tonight in left field.
I was gonna say regarding him, and I wouldn't agree with this because, as I said last time, I think they need to play him to try to get something out of him at the deadline. I think that's the way they need to go. But you could send him down and keep up De La Cruz.
Who?
That's a possibility.
Brian Anderson.
You could do that. Well, listen.
Wait, what?
Yes, they are allowed to do that.
When have they ever shown a willingness to send Brian Anderson anywhere but the lineup?
I just said I don't think they should. I don't think they should. But you have more positional flexibility in De La Cruz. He frankly has played better most of the time that he's been in there than Anderson has so far this year. So
Anderson's killing the ball these days.
Anderson leads the team in hard hit rate, actually.
Yeah, but how many holes has he found? Come on. I mean, and he's played sparingly. Yeah. So I wouldn't do that. Honestly, that's something I wouldn't do. I would like to see him here and stay here to boost his trade value, like I just said. But I honestly, it is De La Cruz. But it's an interesting topic because the guy's not an everyday player anymore, right? He just isn't. With Wendell playing the way he is and the outfield the way that it is, he's not. So I don't know. I mean, it's something that's probably a low percentage chance, but they can do that. And the organization honestly is not going to sign this guy long term. They're going to do something else with him, whether it be trade him or move him somewhere else. So yeah, I think he stays up, but it's an option. Quick
straw poll: who gets traded first, Aguilar or Anderson?
Aguilar.
Yeah, Aguilar.
I don't know if Aguilar is going to be tradable.
I don't think Aguilar is going to be traded.
I don't think he's going to be tradable. I don't know if he's going to have positive.
I don't. Yeah, exactly. Can you trade him because of? I mean, he hit the 1 home run this past series, but other than that, what have he done?
One last thing I want to get in on this topic before we go to break is the possibility. There is a possibility that they like all 13 of their position players a lot for different reasons, and they do trust their starting rotation to work deep enough into games that they're all right with a 13-man pitching staff, an 8-man bullpen, and they just send down 2 relievers. It could be Pop and Head. It could be Pop and DFA Armstrong, as you guys are saying. It could be any combination of 2 relievers that they can send down. Been great before. I think that is a possibility. I don't want people listening to feel like we misled them and didn't prepare them for that. I think that is possible because they do have 13 important position players. Not going to say they're all good. Sorry,
the 2
Peyton
extra
Henry.
spots were 2 pitchers. The 2 extra spots are 2 pitchers.
Yeah. So I think that is a possibility, and I think that'd be the most fun possibility. Honestly, nobody wants to see like a million relievers on a team anyway, considering how these guys have performed. So yeah, we're gonna go to break, and we're gonna come back with some of this stuff, but also looking ahead, of course, to this exciting series between the Marlins and Mariners. So 30 seconds from our pals at Loop. Stick with us.
Why bother with empty shelves at retail stores, waiting 3 days for a break to fill, or driving across town to find out your hobby shop closed at 4 when you always have a card show in your pocket? With Loop, you can instantly buy cards, packs, boxes, or into auctions with the click of a button, and do it all while chatting with some of the best personalities and the best community in the hobby. Download the Loop app now on iOS or Android. Loop, a card show in your pocket.
All right. Well, the next thing we're going to talk about is just one hypothetical possibility that I didn't think, would come to fruition if it ever would. It's a 6-man rotation. Eli made a bunch of great stats about Pablo Lopez's struggles when he pitches on normals day rest. That's, 4 days rest. And the numbers really are crazy. So I want to get your thoughts. And that would mean moving Eliezer. That is when Edward and Max Meyer are both ready. That would mean moving Eliezer to the bullpen. So I want to get your thoughts on that possibility. I don't think Manley has ever shown a willingness to do that, but it is something that could really make this 6-man rotation of a bunch of flame-throwing studs, be really beneficial for this team. So whoever wants to go first on that.
Yeah, if they're going to do that, though, I think they need to have an 8-man bullpen as well. I think that means having the larger pitching staff to make that viable, to make that work. Just knowing that if you go back-to-back days and a couple guys aren't going super deep, to avoid burning out the pen, it's either going to be that or just a constant churn in the back end. It's exhausting to keep up with a 6-man bullpen. It is one that could particularly make sense for this team, just because as long as Eliezer kind of straightens himself out tonight and you want to keep him in there, but also infuse somebody like Max or Edward, and understanding that not just Pablo, but honestly, I think almost every pitcher is in a better position to succeed when they have some sort of extra rest. Pablo is the one that has the really big splits, where he's a 5 ERA pitcher on normal rest, and he's a sub-3 ERA pitcher on extended rest. And the samples are almost equal in his career. Like, this is a pretty decent sample size that's pointing us in that direction now. It's interesting. I don't think it's on the table right now to at this very moment, just because, I mean, I don't think it makes that much of a difference compared to where things are right now. I think, well, we need to think about what exactly would make it worth it. What exactly are they attempting to gain from that? I think they would have to see if Pablo, these next couple turns of the rotation on regular rest, if he really struggles to some extent, like if they have some reason to really fear that they're not going to get the best version of himself, if like they get even more evidence that this is a problem, I think that's when they look into it, probably next month at some point, assuming Meyer continues to pitch well or Edward is completely stretched out. This is something that I guess next month we start talking about more seriously. For the moment, it seems like a little too bold for them, and for my taste, honestly, too.
I'm with you. And speaking of Eliezer, how many starts left? You know, Craig Mish put out that tweet, you know, with the numbers that Max Meyer is producing in AAA, and if Eliezer does have maybe 1 or 2 more clunkers, how far away are we, you know, from saying, you know, we're in a win now mode? We're not going to give Eliezer any more meaningful starts, push him to the bullpen. I think he would be the first one there. That would also, I would think, you know, enhances the bullpen a little bit and also really revitalizes the rotation. So I don't know what's your guys' opinion on that?
I don't think his leash should be very long, honestly. We have 2 guys knocking on the door. There's no reason to have a long leash. I think I feel bad that he was injured all last season, but if you're not going to pitch well this season, then it's time to go.
Yeah.
The road.
We're seeing the guy he's always been this year, where he has a good start and then he follows it up and he doesn't, right? So it's the same player.
He should not be left in for the 3rd time through the order.
Right. I mean, well, he did show it once, right? So yeah, I mean, the guy is on some teams that don't have the pitching depth that the Marlins have. Honestly, probably many teams that don't have the starting depth that the Marlins have in the majors and in the minors coming. He could be a 5th starter and do okay. On this team with the depth that they have, not far away whatsoever, he's not a starting pitcher. And it sucks because, you know, he can be good. He has shown his moments. But yeah, it's bullpen. I mean, and I think Craig Mish put this out on Twitter that tonight, I think he's pitching tonight, right? Tonight's a big one for him. Because if he comes out and isn't good again tonight, I think that's probably it. I think that has to be it when Edward Cabrera is ready. I think this is his last go around if he has a bad game. And this is a very easy lineup to have a bad game against. So I'm hoping not. I'm hoping he has a good game. So don't get that wrong. But yeah, if he comes out and stinks it up again and gives up a bunch of runs and a bunch of contact, he's going to be done. At the most, I'd give him 2 more. But yeah, he's the clear guy in the rotation that's going when Edward is ready, and that's not far away.
I agree. I think I've been saying this for a while. I've never liked Eliezer on the starting rotation. I've always thought of him as kind of a bullpen long reliever kind of guy. He does strengthen that bullpen up. But yeah, this is his biggest game. If he could show off today and bring us a good performance, good stuff. I mean, if he does it, then it's time to start calling the phone and bring in Mr. Meyer.
Yeah, I think it was just very surprising, but you know, the way things have gone, I'm kind of glad they didn't. But I think it was just very surprising to all of us that he made it through spring training without getting dealt. I think all of us were under the impression that he would have been traded at some point during, you know, spring training or even during the first week of the season, where a lot of teams are, you know, struggling to fill out the rotation spots. Here's a crazy idea brought to me. You know, what if they try Eliezer trying to close out some games? Is that a possibility?
No, doesn't have the stuff. No velo, doesn't have stuff.
Neither does Cole Sulcer. Neither does Anthony.
He's got much more of a changeup than Eliezer Hernandez.
I'll be very curious. I really don't know exactly what that looks like in the bullpen. I know earlier in his career when he pitched out of the bullpen, he was not successful, although most of that was as a rookie, as a Rule 5 draft pick. He was not in a position where he was kind of ready to be the best version of himself. That slider that he really started fine-tuning in 2019 and then really took off in 2020 during that shortened season, that's a real weapon. And I feel like he would be a better reliever now than he used to be. And somebody that, I guess, compared to who they currently have in the bullpen, compared to, he'd be better than Sean Armstrong. I can say that pretty confidently.
It's a low bar to clear.
He's a role to play. At the same time, it does seem like a missed opportunity in terms of trading him. The fact that there did seem to be potential fits for him to get something in return, not huge, but something, either a prospect depth at a certain position or some sort of platoon bat at a certain position. Like there are things they could have done. And now at this point, you're not really looking at a trade. You'd be selling really low. His value, if he struggles and you want to replace him in the rotation with somebody that's next man up in your farm system, you just don't have much leverage in trade negotiations. So that ship is kind of sailed. Either he puts it together and he solidifies himself in this rotation, or they look to moving him into the bullpen and seeing what happens there if he's just a fastball slider guy. The problem with him has been he's not a 2-pitch pitcher. He's a 1-pitch pitcher. He's a slider guy. He's not a fastball guy. The fastball is really bad. The stats against it going back to last year are about as bad as any other starting pitcher's fastball. It gets crushed every single outing by at least one hitter, if not multiple hitters in the lineup, because it's just the characteristics of it are not good. And the location of it was kind of good in 2020, and it hasn't been the same since then. So yeah, every single start, looking at him really carefully to see if he can turn it around. Don't discount the fact that he was great in his second outing of the year. He had one great outing. He had 2 bad outings. He's capable of having other great outings, but we'll just have to find out. Just let him take the mounds and see exactly who he's going to be, because I don't have a great feel for exactly who he's going to be moving forward.
Yeah, and just to answer that last thing that you mentioned, Isaac, about really quickly, just to put an exclamation point on that. Everything that Eli just said, he has one plus pitch. These other 2 pitches, he has the changeup is basically useless. It's mixing. And then the fastball is 89, 90, and he can't spot it. So if you really want that as your closer, you're masochistic. So that's an absolute no. Could be good as a 1 to 2 inning reliever, though. I think that's where his only future with this team is there. Anyways, we can go on.
Yeah, no, I think the perfect storm that maybe could happen with Eliezer, say he has another good start against a pretty decent Seattle team, a good start, and another one behind that, and that's when they decide, hey, let's pull the trigger. Meyer has 2 more starts under his belt that they're also good. Let's trade him, call up Meyer, and they could get some decent value for Eliezer. Like you said, there are some teams that he would be the 3rd, 4th best pitcher on the team. He'd probably be Pittsburgh's number 1. Probably a little bit of hyperbole there, but he would be in a lot of major league teams' rotation. But moving on, the Marlins do play the Seattle Mariners tonight. They have a lot of fun names in that starting lineup. No more fun than the starting pitcher who will pitch for them on Sunday, Logan Gilbert, 2nd in Major League Baseball in earned run average. I wonder who number 1 is. As you guys can see, they have Adam Frazier, France, Winker, Haniger, Crawford, Suarez, Rodriguez, Kellnick, the 2 young outfield studs for Seattle, Torrena, and they have Brash pitching in Miami's lineup, all normal, other than Garrett Cooper having a day off, you'd think, unless he's banged up. Rojas is back in there. Where's the weak spot in this Seattle Mariners team? We don't get to see them a lot. I think the last time they were here was in 2014.
Yeah.
When Giancarlo hit a walk-off grand slam. I think I was actually at that game with my pops. So where do you attack if you're Eliezer for this team? Your Winker has gone off to a very slow start, as has Suarez a little bit, but he's picked it up. Where do you go from here?
It's been the bottom when it's all clicking for this Mariners team. It's going to be one of the better offenses in all baseball. The thing holding them back has been the young guys, those stud hitting prospects that haven't made the transition to the big leagues as expected, being Julio Rodriguez and Kellnick. And if those guys get anywhere close to being the players that they were widely projected to be, then it is a truly cyclical lineup. Even with Winker, I mean, the stats have been terrible, but he's also been, in many respects, just super unlucky. He's a guy that has hit so many of these deep fly balls that get caught on the warning track. As a guy who played with the Reds for all these years, making a transition to bigger ballparks and to the new baseball, it seems that they're using this year. That seems to have made quite a bit of an impact on him. But overall, like his skill level is high enough that he's eventually going to catch up as well. It's a really deep lineup. I mean, and Ty France is the one that you need to give a lot of credit to, because he was somebody that was never regarded as a great prospect, but he performed in the upper minors, and he's just kept it going ever since getting traded from the Padres to the Mariners. He's not a sexy hitter. He's just an amazing hitter. And he's been such a big piece of them putting together this core. The fact that he's now kind of embedded in the middle of their lineup, he's not a fluke, especially he's the one guy, honestly, more so than anybody else, that you need to pitch pretty carefully to.
Yeah, and I know this isn't Mariners TV, but it's hard to expect, any top hitting prospect to come up and just set the world on fire. There's not many Acuñas and Sotos in the world. Not Julio Rodriguez. I do want to talk about Jared Kellnick. He was one of my favorite outfield prospects in all of Major League Baseball. He's with the Mets, with the Mariners now. He was just can't miss. And it's 2 years in a row now where he's had smaller sample sizes of really struggling against Major League pitching. Alex, you're our minor league guy. I don't know how much you kept up with him, but is there a little bit of reason to be concerned with Jared Kellnick?
Well, my worry about him is not, that it's going to happen for him, because I think it will. I think he definitely has the talent. My worry with him is it going to happen right now? I mean, honestly, I really think the Mariners are rushing these prospects, him and Rodriguez included. They've barely played in the upper minors, barely. Kellnick a little bit more. Rodriguez never played at AAA, and he played half a season at AA, and then he came up last year. So they're being very aggressive with these guys in terms of their development. They apparently think that they have nothing left to do in minor league baseball. And in Kellnick's case, he came up last year and played 90 games and struck out over 100 times. So I don't know. I would like to know, maybe pick the brain of one of the development guys from the Mariners, but they think these guys are slam dunks, and they think they're ready to do it right now after a very short minor league career. So I worry about the right now. I don't worry about the future. I think their futures are good. But how much do you hamper that future when you're calling a guy up to get completely dominated by major league pitching? That's a concern. And with prospects with the pedigree that they have at 21 and 22 years old, if I'm in the shoes of the Mariners, I protect that at all costs. But they think they're ready right now. Their fans are super excited, and there's reason to get excited about these players. But I don't know. It may be a little bit too soon, but we'll see.
Yeah, Eli had mentioned that, or I think you want to go ahead and say it, Eli, the caught looking.
This storyline,
it's the same thing that happened to Jazz too. Yeah,
the Mariners are, as it says right here, they actually filed a complaint with Major League Baseball that they feel that Julio Rodriguez is, for lack of a better word, getting discriminated against. They feel that all these borderline pitches and pitches that are even like outside the borderline are going against him for strikes and putting him in position to strike out looking more than any other player in baseball. He's more of those than anybody else, more backwards case at this point in the season. I mean, even if there is some legitimacy to it now that we have like the data behind it, it's such an excuse for a guy that should just be raking, for a guy that has been raking throughout the minors. For the points that Alex raises about speeding up their development, I'll also understand that these guys are like the elite of the elite in terms of talent wise. Like, not only was the production off the charts, but given the age that they were doing it at, with Julio, I think still only being just 21 years old right before the season started, it was not really an unpopular decision to put them in the majors at this point, just because they were believed to be that kind of really special player that didn't need to go through the normal progression up the entire minor league ladder. Whether they were right or wrong, I'm not sure. But it is pretty fascinating that these guys were thought as the ones that were going to be leading this organization and are actually at the very moment the ones that are almost holding them back a little bit to this point in the season. Hopefully they don't click both at the same time during this weekend, but you can't rule it out. They are that kind of talent, both of them, both Julio and Kellnick.
Yeah, John, Noah, we don't see this Seattle Mariners team very often. We mentioned some of the hype prospect guys. Eli mentioned Ty France, probably arguably their best hitter at the moment. Who sticks out for you guys this year?
I'm more worried about their pitching. I'm more worried about Matt Brash and Logan Gilbert. They terrify me.
I was hoping someone would say
They
the fucking
terrify me.
Mine has to be Ty France. They named the country after him. Nobody could stop him right now.
Come on.
He's absolutely insane.
That's worse than my jokes.
It is.
I mean, look, honestly, for this series, the one person I'm trying to stop, I'm rooting for the Marlins to get out the most. It's Ty France. I'm looking at all these highlights. I love the Mariners. They're like one of my top teams. They need to stop France. If they want to win this series, they need to stop France. There's just nothing stopping him right now. I like what you said about Julio Rodriguez, Eli. It's true. It's an excuse. The pitching is gonna be fun. Sadly, we're not gonna get a Pablo versus Gilbert game. That would have been insane.
Pablo wanted to pitch against the Mariners, but he couldn't.
That would have been awesome. And yeah, first time since 2014 since we play the Mariners here at home. I was at that Grand Slam game as well. That was amazing. But personally, I'm scared, but I'm not too scared of this Mariners team. If the Marlins could prove me wrong that they are able to play these top tier teams and come out with wins, then they're a legit team. They're a legit team with all the holes that they have. If they could come out on top, they're a legit team. Well, but we'll see. We'll see.
And I think with Eliezer on the mound, they have to be really careful with Jesse Winker. Yeah, this seems like the type of pitch. It seems like the type of setting where maybe Jesse Winker finally breaks out. Eli mentioned how unlucky he has been so far this season, not just not finding holes, but hitting the ball hard. But to me, he's the guy that scares me. He was just so prolific in Cincinnati, just hit everything. And when this lineup is at full strength, it can be a pretty scary one. And, I mentioned really quick about Julio. I felt they think he was, part of the same group as Soto. Soto played maybe 50 games at Double-A, and then they just called him right up. They probably thought, what, Julio's better. Play center field, he's way better. I don't know. Well, I guess only time will tell on that one. But
I mean,
we're getting
to mention it before you go to predictions, they get off the topic of this series as a whole. I like this matchup. I think these teams match up really well. They're very similar teams. They're very similar records. Obviously, I think the Mariners are one game better, right? But they both so far have ridden their pitching mostly and not their offense. So that could change at any time for the Mariners. Like Eli said, I hope it's not in this series because those two prospects could click at any time. Winker could go off and start hitting bombs basically any time. So I hope that's not now. I hope it's our guys, the guys that we need to get going. Aggie, Avisal Garcia. I hope it's those guys that start getting going first before the Mariners guys. But we'll see. But I do like this matchup. I think it's going to be well-contested games. I think the Marlins are up for it, especially after what they're coming off of what they did in Washington. But I think it's going to be a fun series.
Yeah, a quick diversion just to address this question about Sixto. Some people wondering about him. The update today was that he's still throwing at,
Magic
45
number.
feet. 45 feet. That he is in the same point of rehab that he was last year before electing for shoulder surgery. And on his way back from surgery, he's still at that very early stage of rehab. Best case scenario, he's still a few weeks away from even throwing bullpens, and then another, if they want to stretch him out as a starter, still an extra month away from that. So this is something that we'll circle back to once he actually progresses beyond 45 feet, which he hopefully
How
will.
ironic is it that he wears that jersey number too? That's all I got to say. Anyway.
I knew you were going to go there. I knew it.
Wait.
Yeah,
I'm trying to remember what jersey number.
45.
Okay, anyway, it was funny. I was actually asked by a family member, what's the deal with 607? Is he pitching this weekend? I'm like, buddy, I wouldn't even count on him pitching at all in Major League Baseball.
From 45 feet. That's where he's pitching.
In 2022, I don't think we will see him. But moving on to predictions, it's the time that counts the most. We see exactly how smart we all are. I guess we can start with Noah. I should recap that all of our Fish Stripes guys did correctly predict the Marlins winning in the previous series.
Yep.
Only you and Kevin, Noah, predicted a sweep. But we can start with this one. Noah, go ahead first.
My optimism wants me to say 2 of 3. I'm gonna do it. Let's go 2 of 3. And for the MVP, I'm gonna shock the world. I'm going with Brian Anderson.
Oh, all right.
I think I think this series sets him up for a breakout series if he wants to take it.
Okay. I don't really know what that means, but yeah.
I don't know what it means either.
I don't know what that
To
means.
update you how we do the scoring, we give 1 point for correctly predicting which team wins the series, an additional point if you get the actual game split perfect. So predicting a sweep was worth 2 points last week for I think both Noah and Kevin. And then series MVP, we decide that based on win probability added that the player has during the series. So it could be a pitcher or a hitter, the way that this stat works. Whoever accumulates the most win probability during the series is our MVP. It could be from either team. It could be from the Marlins or another team. It's more fun when you pick a Marlins player, but could go either way. So we have a Noah with the Marlins winning 2 out of 3. I have the Mariners winning the series 2 out of 3. The Marlins going 1 and 2. It's going to be a tough matchup. It's going to be more close games to this point in the season. So many of these close games have gone Miami's way. And I think that's going to, in many cases, that evens out. Not in every team's case, but I think in this one it will. And especially tonight. Tonight is the one that you're really concerned about with Eliezer. I think there's the discourse on here is going to get pretty wild towards the end of the night, Saturday, crying about replacing him in the rotation. And that's very valid. So I think that's going to be pretty entertaining to follow and to cover. But the Marlins will pull out one of the games in this series. In terms of MVP, I'm going to stick with the Marlins player, whether they get the series win or not. I think that I'll go against everything that we've been seeing. I think Avi Garcia. Actually,
I was gonna say Avi Garcia, but I'm like, that's way too against my narratives.
Yeah, I think in the game that they win, he's going to come up with a few clutch hits, and that he's going to be on the field. He's going to be playing every game, like it or not. He is going to have those opportunities to contribute. So Marlins going 1 and 2. Avisail Garcia, series MVP.
Okay, John.
Oh man, I said this on the previous point. If the Marlins take 2 of 3, this is a legit team. I don't think they are yet. I'm going 1 of 3. I think the Marlins lose the first 2 games, win that last game on a surprise little walk-off. It's a sandy start. Team isn't going to really hit.
Walk-off?
Yeah, maybe a little Sunday win there. MVP, I had Avi Garcia. Avi Garcia was my guy for that series. For the series, that is. Yeah, if we take 1 of 3, I'll be happy. 1 of 2 out of a Seattle team, I'm fine.
Okay, fair. Alex Carver.
Yeah, I'd like to agree with Noah, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think it'll be a very good series. Like I said before, I think it'll be highly contested. I think most games will be close with the exception of tonight's game. I think tonight's is not going to be close. So yeah, I'll say they get 1 of 3, especially with the lefty starting tomorrow on this long stretch the Marlins are on. Maybe Jazz gets a day, maybe Sanchez gets a day, whatever could happen there. So, yeah, I think they lose the first 2 and win with Sandy, like John said, in the last game of the series. And I can't go Avi Garcia, so I'm not going to make that a trifecta because he's just been so not good for the most part. So I won't go with him. I'll pick a Mariners player between 2 guys here, but I'll make it quick. Let's go with Jesse Winker. I think this is a series that he could get it started and start pumping some balls out. So I'll say Winker hits at least 1 home run in this series, maybe multiple home runs. I think he starts getting it going.
His first home run of the season.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, regarding series, Alex completely echoed what I'm going to go. I think they lose tonight. I think they lose tomorrow in heartbreaking fashion, and I think they win. Sandy on Sunday day games is just, vintage Pedro Martinez. So I will go with Marlins losing, not a comp like that.
That's a comp.
He's the best pitcher in the world on Sundays. Marlins lose 2 out of 3. MVP. I was gonna go Sandy, but I was gonna go Avi as well. Let's go Sandy Alcantara. I think he has like a 12 strikeout, 8 inning performance on Sunday. Logan Gilbert goes 8 innings, 1 earned run, and it'll be enough.
Yeah, we have one other prediction to get in here from Kevin, of course.
That's right.
He did not send me a full paragraph. Maybe he sent you the full info.
Here, I'll read it for you.
He sent me a paragraph too.
Kevin Burrell is saying that the Marlins take 2 out of 3, winning games 1 and 2, and ironically losing the one game that Alex and I said they'd win on Sunday.
That'll make me 0-2.
He didn't give me an MVP, so
yeah, he didn't give me an MVP either. So I guess he wins that. If all of our guys finish in the negative, negative win probability added. If they all suck, if Winker, Garcia, who'd you have, Isaac?
Sandy.
And Andrew.
And Andy. BA.
Actually, you know what? I switch it. I want Brian Anderson.
Hey, whoa, hey.
Oh, wait, you know what? He's not going to play every day.
He might. He might. There's a lefty pitcher tomorrow. He might.
Kevin's MVP is Jazz Chisholm.
Ah.
How many times has he picked Jazz? He's picked Jazz like every time.
Hey, I've picked
I've picked Jazz.
I don't blame him. I don't blame him, but I'm just saying.
Jazz is good.
Yeah, Jazz, and then I'll stick with Sandy.
Okay, good. And a final reminder, with 13 minutes till first pitch, you can get in your fish picks prop bets as well, where we go for most of these series. It's 6 different props, over-unders, yes or no, which team will win the series as well. So the link is, we tweeted out a couple times during every series opener. These are props for the entire series, just like us picking for the whole series, not individual games. You can find the link on fishstripes.com, and it's even in there, bit.ly/2022 fish picks. You could just bookmark that page and come back to it. I try to refresh it as much as possible on time so that you have time to get your picks in. And thank you to Sean Grant for listening to us and for submitting a pretty good question in the middle of that about the rosters. That was much appreciated as well. Yeah, we gave out a prize, the first fish picks winner just today. Who was it? It was, let me look it up. Paolo. Yeah, it was Paolo. I sent him a t-shirt, our Jazz Hands t-shirt that created with Breaking Tea, giving away t-shirts for our fish picks winners every few weeks throughout this season.
Sounds delish. Well, there you had it. Our series preview against the Seattle Mariners.
Last thing for me,
please.
Last thing for me, really quick. If I could say one quick thing before you go. If you guys are so inclined and you have a second screen, Yuri Perez pitches tonight for the Wahoos.
He needs to bounce back. The results have not been exactly what we were hoping for so far this year.
It jumped to AA, so I think he's going to be all right. But yeah, if you want to watch Yuri, he's on MLB TV. Go check it out.
Yuri Perez just turned 19. A lot of sites and experts like Alex and Eli consider him the top prospect in the Marlins system. He will be making his 4th or 3rd AA start.
Number 4.
He will be making his 4th start for Pensacola. And got out to Lone Depot Park this weekend. Seattle Mariners, not here very often. Well, starting next year, they'll be here every year, or they'll face them every year at least. But that does it for me. Noah, Mr. Eli, Mr. John, Alex, thank you guys for watching.
Why bother with empty shelves at retail stores, waiting 3 days for a break to fill, or driving across town to find out your hobby shop closed at 4 when you always have a card show in your pocket? With Loop, you can instantly buy cards, packs, boxes, or into auctions with the click of a button, and do it all while chatting with some of the best personalities and the best community in the hobby. Download the Loop app now on iOS or Android. Loop, a